the fact that we're going to trade or we traded Teoscar Hernandez,
Right.
So a good reporter has to get an independent second source in almost every case, unless the person actually told you themselves. To trade.
Right. Well, okay. As a reporter, listen, it depends, right? Like if this source is somebody who absolutely would know that you absolutely trust, do you still need a second source?
Yeah, that's the risk that you take. That's the risk. Unless you spoke to the person, the actual person involved. Like, so you actually got the guy to say, yes, I've been traded to the, whatever.
You do a seance.
Or the manager who did the trade. Anyone beyond that, you've got to get another source. You just have to. It's not worth it for your reputation. It's just not. I don't have to even mention the names of people. Ask the people that have been burned. Although we're trying to get the story first.
The woman that you reference a lot for being wrong about like a free agent signing or something. Still nothing. No fallout.
Well, here's the thing: is that we're talking about Hazel. Hazel is not considered to be a reporter in that sense. Ken Rosenthal is a reporter. He's got sources. He works the phones. He's been like that. He worked in the newspapers. Hazel is a presenter who on occasion becomes a reporter, not the on the field or in the locker room type of back and forth, right? That's not the same kind of reporting. Reporter asks the tough questions and a reporter follows up. A reporter, if they've got a story, if they've got good sources, is dependent, that people depend on that reporter for, the inside information. Hazel's role isn't like that. She works for the broadcast entity that the team owns and she's not. Whereas, Shai Davidi is a reporter, even though he may favor the Jays because they help butter his bread. He's a good reporter. He doesn't go. He's not the type. He's not the type that's going to say, confirmed. Blah blah blah. This is the deal. Jays have traded Teoscar. He'll do the necessary things to do, not to talk to one person who says, I've got knowledge. I'm just here to tell you. That's the story. A good reporter says, can I go with this story? Can I go with the story? And the guy goes, you can go. I said, who else can I talk to that can confirm this story? And that source might say, well, if you get so-and-so to do it, or you should know on your own. Okay, I got one source. I need someone to corroborate. Corroboration. Then you've got the story. Then it's airtight.
Right.
You've got two separate independent sources that tell you the same thing, that this guy's going to be traded. That's good. I like that.
Good point. Now I need you, Mr. Hebsher, to retweet the tweet because I understand as of this moment, 8:56 a.m. Eastern on Friday, November 18th, that Twitter is still functional.
All right, good. Good to know.
Which is good because it lets you tweet this link.
All right, I'm going to tweet it right now. You keep the...
And I will let the listenership know, especially the Hebsy fans.
The good listenership.
The good listenership, right. What is it? Scruff Connors would say the listenership on Q107. Anyway, shout out to TJ Connors is back on the air and hits, but he's doing it from Winnipeg. So
he's doing what from Winnipeg? He's doing a show that's being heard in the Niagara Peninsula from Winnipeg.
Correct. Yes. So,
and when you hear that, you go, "Oh man, that ruins it." Or just listen because I've been listening to shows. I don't know where the host. I don't know where it's originated from. I don't care.
Well, Howard Stern, we listened to, most of us listened for a bit here and there, and we knew it was coming out of New York, and we didn't, it might be on a Q107, but I don't know if we cared. But I will say this, that I don't listen to a lot of terrestrial radio, Mr. Hebsher, but this voice tracking thing is so commonplace everywhere. It's almost rare to find like a live and local show now.
Okay, so we're driving back from Elliott Lake a couple weekends ago, right?
Right.
And we're listening to a station. It's one of the branded stations, and I couldn't tell you which ones. Oh, it's called Rewind.
Okay.
Do you know it?
No, but it sounds like it would be like retro music. Like
right. I think it's called Rewind. So it's one of the services. It's what's the one you get on television? I can't think of it. One of those. Just a bunch of satellite, just a whole bunch, right? And it's a show, and I think it's done out of Toronto. I think so. It's like Jeff Spindell is one of the voices, and a couple other voices that I know.
Right.
And I'm listening to it. We're listening to it out
Stingray. Of It's Stingray.
Stingray, thank you.
Because they own Boom and Jeff works there. It all makes sense.
Right. So I'm listening to this, and when I know these people, I know this music, and I'm listening to it out of I guess it's out of Sudbury. And they insert local commercials, and they insert the local weather. The guy comes out and going, "Oh, the weather for the Algoma Sudbury," but you're listening to it's being done and well done. Like every song, I love every song, and I'm listening to it in Sudbury. I'm listening to it in Elliott Lake, where Perry Sound, I guess, off the same pretty strong station, I think, out of Sudbury.
Right.
And then we go into a Kelsey's for wings, and they're pretty much playing the same music, except there's no announcers because it's not a station. It's not a station. It's just
right.
music in the restaurant.
Right, like you get in grocery stores.
Oh no, this is better than grocery store. You find me a grocery store that plays music like this, I'll go there all the time.
Okay, but I will say when I worked at a grocery store, you would hear the odd like Smashing Pumpkins covering Landslide or something. Like you get these like little nuggets in the mix, but
yeah.
But a lot of Guess Who, Undone, Come Undone, and all that. But yeah.
Yeah,
Come Undone.
You play a lot of music, other people's music. So you've really become very worldly when it comes to not necessarily the appreciation of music, but just your knowledge now because of your guests and
that's true.
Stories behind certain.
I'm
musicians.
Like a sponge,
and I'm the same way. I'll listen and I'll go, I've never heard of this person before. Boy, who's this person that they're talking about? And I want to go and listen to more of their music.
Now, remember, Hebsy, with the new process, I'm going to record all this, and the theme and everything's going to sound pristine for the podcast. So if there's any issues on the live stream, people should know it's just a nature of the Zoom live stream, but everything will sound beautiful in the Hebsy on Sports podcast feed.
Yeah. Well, have we explained this to people? Do we explain to people that when they're listening, they may notice that the quality is much better because we're not using the Zoom feed?
The thing is, we're only talking to the live stream people, so I feel like, does anyone listen to both? I don't think so. Like if you go live to YouTube, are you still going to listen to the podcast later? Maybe. Do
you ever listen to your podcast?
Yeah, I listen back a lot. Like if I want to hear, like if it felt weird in the room and I want to hear
to critique yourself.
Yeah, to critique, like was it like, would I like it if I had nothing to do with this show? Like I do a lot. Like, am I doing too many ums? Am I interrupting this guest? Is this guest like, if the level's right? Like I listen quite a bit. Yeah.
Do you ever laugh at yourself? Like burst out, like laugh, like involuntary? No. You hear something on your show. No. You hear something, either you said it or whatever, and you just laugh out loud.
Sure, there's been moments where, like funny moments where I'll laugh out loud.
Yeah, and you're thinking, man, if I laughed and the audience laughed, that was a good bit. All right, one for
Absolutely.
Me. Yeah, it's fun. All right, let's get this show on the road. Okay. You can give me the visual cue.
Well, you're going to hear your theme song.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We have no sponsor. This is 2 weeks in a row.
We're gonna fix that, right?
Next week we got a show. The week after, no show. December the 2nd, I think it is. Because I'm going to be away. I'm going to be away, and I'm not going to be wanting to do the show. I'll be in serious vacation mode.
Okay, well then I am going to the 2nd. I'm going to delete that from the calendar because that is the only way.
I would have told you eventually, but I'm telling you now.
All right, no show on the 2nd. Okay. All right. Are you ready to rock? Yes, you are. Here we go.
I like it. 25th anniversary of Phantom Power. I know. Why did I bring that up?
Because
that's Los Lobos.
Yes.
Right. One of their members, Steve Berlin, who I had breakfast with yesterday, produced the album Phantom Power by the Tragically Hip. Also produced Music at Work, which I think is an underrated hip album. And so that's how I got to this. Hey, sports fans, welcome to the podcast. It's Friday. It's going to snow like crazy, depending on where you are. Like nuts happening. It's November. What's going on? It's Hebsy on Sports, episode 310. Mark Hebscher along with Toronto Mike. Today's show features Teoscar Hernandez. Remember him? God, I loved him. That smile. Wasn't always crazy about the sunflower seeds over their head, but hey, he's gone. Out of here. How do you feel about the deal? I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm confused. Dazed and confused. I'll tell you this. If the Mariners have a better record than the Jays, or beat the Jays out for a playoff spot, or beat them at all, and Teoscar has anything to do with it, I'm going to be like, shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. So we'll get into that. Snowmageddon has forced the Buffalo Bills to move their home date to Detroit on Sunday. And you're going, what? Yeah, it happened like back in 2014. Same thing. A huge snowstorm was coming. You know, they have ways to predict these things, and they're pretty accurate, right? They're pretty accurate. You know, within days, they're pretty accurate. So years ago, they got snowed out. They said, all right, everybody go to Detroit. Ford Field is covered, right? And the Bills won. So this week, they're going to play twice in 5 days in Detroit. Sunday's game in Detroit against Cleveland. And then next Thursday, Thanksgiving, the Bills play the Lions. I wonder if they're going to have to switch dressing rooms, or they're just going to say, okay, Buffalo, you got this dressing room for the next week. You guys have it for the next week. The visitors' dressing room. Anyway, where was I here? Oh, there's another football game with snow, apparently, a Grey Cup on Sunday. Anybody going to a Grey Cup party? I didn't think so. Who should win the Northern Star Award as Canada's top athlete this year? It's not the award anymore. It's the Northern Star Award. All right. And that's not the name of an Indigenous person as far as I know. It's just, you know, not that creative or not that, I don't know, Northern Star Award.
Isn't that their sports betting consortium? What are they called?
Yeah, something like, I don't know. Anyway,
too close for comfort.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. It was a Toronto Star reader that came up with that one. Woo! Right. We'll go over the candidates for the Northern Star Award. At least it's not called the Award anymore. Hey, we got the World Cup coming up. Starts TSN's all over it. All over it. We got the Leafs. We got the Raptors. We got tennis. We got baseball free agency. And the new sport of power slap, Mike, power slap.
That's not a Will Smith thing, is it?
It's a UFC spinoff, but it's, you know, it's like, did you ever used to watch Jackass?
A little bit, not too much.
Did you ever see the show Nitro Circus?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Oh man, you got to get out. Nitro Circus is fabulous.
Is that like American Gladiators?
No, Travis Pasternak and those guys. They're daredevils, but they're professional daredevils, not the amateur daredevils that, you know. Anyway, like Steve-O and those guys. Anyway, yeah, power slap. We'll get into that a little later. All right. So, I'm sorry, I said hello to you, and I wanted to get into this Teoscar thing, but I know that.
Well, actually,
we haven't spoken in a week or so.
My daughter, who next weekend I'll be seeing in Montreal, her favorite Blue Jay was Teoscar Hernandez, and we were chatting about this the other day, and I said I need Hebsy's take on this because unless there's another shoe that's going to fall, this is a very disappointing moment for Blue Jay fans. So tell us your take on Teoscar Hernandez being traded to the Mariners.
I, like your daughter, I like Teoscar Hernandez. I happen to like him as a ball player. I get it that it was sort of a reverse George Bell with me. He had similar talents, not a great fielder, right? But George could be really moody and nasty and whatever. And Teoscar was the opposite. He was always in a good mood. He was in too good of a mood sometimes. But if you remember that unfortunate game where we dropped it and kicked it around and lost to Seattle in the second game, Teoscar brought us back like single-handedly. Hit 2 home runs, like clutch.
Right.
And sort of this is the thing he had. I think injuries caused problems for him last year. He's not going to make excuses, but, I thought he was just an integral part of the lineup here. And if you look at the Jays in recent years, right, and what they've done to stay in contention in the American League East, even though they haven't been able to win a playoff game, they've signed guys, they've kept guys. They couldn't keep Marcus Semien. Okay, I get that. But they've signed guys and they're trying to develop a team they didn't do it in 2022. And maybe with a few tweaks, with a few tweaks, they'll be a contender again in 2023. Okay, one of them is, you've got a guy on an expiring contract. The Yankees did that with Aaron Judge last year. They made the playoffs. He wouldn't sign a $215 million extension. So they knew that at the end of the season, he was gone. But they needed him for that season to try for a championship. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
They could have traded him, right? A team would have taken Aaron Judge on, for the balance of the season, knowing that he was going to be a free agent. I don't know what the return would have been, but the Yankees chose to keep him, not trade him, even though they might have been offered a guy like a Swanson, the guy that we got from Seattle, who I don't even know who this guy is. People are looking at his numbers going, ooh, this guy's great. I'm going, did he pitch against the Jays? Mm-hmm. Did he pitch in the playoffs? I didn't see him in the playoffs as part of their bullpen. I think he pitched like once in the playoffs. He didn't pitch against the Jays. So he's one of those guys that I don't want to say a dime a dozen, but there's lots of power armed relievers, tons of them. You had Nate Pearson pitching down in the Dominican. He got everybody out. He didn't give up a run. 12 appearances, 12 innings, 1 inning slots, 7th inning usually. Boom. Okay, it's the Dominican League. Blowing guys away. He might be your guy. This might be your bullpen. I don't know. But to give up an everyday player like Teoscar, I didn't like the idea. So anyway, I want to go back here because let's talk about the development of this team. And remember, we were saying this in 2020, 2021. How's this team set up? How are they looking? Bo, Vladdy. We got Matt Chapman. We got, so you signed Ryu. All right. Last year, write-off. You signed Springer. You signed Gosman. You fire your old manager. You elevate John Schneider. You've got Matt Chapman, who's a Gold Glover, although not this year, beaten out by some guy. I don't even know who it was. You went and got Jose Barrios in a trade. All right. These are veteran guys. You've developed, Kirk, beautiful, came out of nowhere. Manoah came out of nowhere. Come on. These guys were not expected. When we talked back in 2020, Mike, we were not talking about Alejandro Kirk and Alek Manoah being this effective on this team. Now you've got a wealth of depth at catcher. It's a lovely thing. So you add Vladdy and you add Bo and you add Jordan Romano and you add Gabriel Moreno, and it's lovely. All right. A couple of tweaks, but part of that is Teoscar. Okay. Would you have gotten to the playoffs without Teoscar? Probably not. The year before that, he had a great year. All right. Much better. Last year, I think this past year was injured. He was injury prone. It's not like he's going to start slowing down. What is he, 29 years of age? Okay. He's going to be a free agent, but you're telling me that he wouldn't have helped your team win in 2023. He wouldn't have been part of this batting order that other teams fear in 2023. Okay, you're going to move George Springer to right field. Fine. Move Teoscar to left. I'm okay with that. But it's like, oh, we're going to let him go. We're not going to get anything for him. Yeah, in the meantime, how are you going to fill that gap now? I don't care that he's going to be a free agent. He's been an integral part of the team. He's going to be missed. It's going to be missed in a lot of ways, not just on the field. Everyday player, tough out, tough batting order, protects the likes of Vladdy and Bo and Springer and Kirk and Lourdes and whoever. He's not great defensively, but how do you replace the offensive production? And the fact that he was traded to Seattle makes it even worse. What if the Mariners edge out the Blue Jays for a playoff spot and Teoscar hits the home run? I'm being dramatic here, but you know what I mean. It's not like Swanson, the guy they got, Eric Swanson, is going to come in and be the star. People are going to go, oh man, if it wasn't for getting Swanson, like no way do we go. I don't think so. It's a middle reliever and nothing against the guy. I'm sure he had one good year. This is Teoscar. This is a silver slugger. This is a guy who other teams don't like facing Teoscar. Remember we watched him. He used to chase those pitches low and away. Remember he used to chase them. And then in the last couple of years, no, he's hitting them out to right field. He's hitting to all fields. Okay. He's a good hitter. You don't replace a guy like this so fast. So your outfield right now without Teoscar is George Springer. Talk about health and how many times have we been knocking wood with him. Lourdes Gurriel, same thing. And not a great player. I mean, not a power hitter, not a great defender. Was okay for a while there if he can stay healthy. So he's a question mark. Oh, yeah, we got Whit Merrifield. He can play the outfield. He's all right. Yeah, okay. All right. We got Kevin Biggio. He can play any position. We got a guy named Nathan Lukes, too. And we got, I guess you could play Otto Lopez out there, and probably you can play Moreno, could probably play the outfield in a pinch, too. And that's just not good enough. So now, all right, we're going to wait for the other shoe to drop, because now that you don't have any outfielders, you have to get an outfielder, and not just an outfielder, a good defensive outfielder, right? You're going to have to pay big. You got to get Brandon Nimmo. You got to get Andrew Benintendi, one of those two guys, because you got to have a left-handed hitter now. And you got to have a really good defender out there, because you're going to have, it looks like you're going to have to keep Bo short. I don't see them going after a shortstop now, because you still need starting pitching. My suggestion is one of those two, for sure, Brandon Nimmo, who is lifetime in Major League Baseball, statistically is one of the top 10 outfielders in the history of the game defensively. Wow. And number one among all active outfielders, Brandon Nimmo, number one defensively. Okay. And not a bad hitter, not a big power hitter, 15 to 20 homers, maybe. hits for average, gets on base. The dude gets on base. And this is what you have to have. You've got to have defense up the middle. Now you got one of your catchers, at least one of your catchers available for a trade. And you're either going to sign a couple of free agents or you're going to sign a free agent and then you're going to make a trade for a key guy. And you're going to go out there next year. And maybe your locker room isn't going to be as loose with Teoscar. I don't know. Maybe all that sunflower seed stuff and Gatorade drinking, maybe management went, maybe we need to change the culture a bit. I hope not. There were times where I was annoyed by it, but as long as you can win. Was it a distraction? Did it prevent them from winning? Did they not pay enough attention out there? And maybe Teoscar was the ringleader or influential?
Now,
it's possible. It's totally possible.
Yeah. As you can imagine, Hebsy, there's a lot of Teoscar chatter on your YouTube channel right now. People can watch us live every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. I just want to shout out, there's a bunch of interesting comments, but Peter DeMarco points out that the Jays are getting the shutdown reliever, I'm quoting him, the shutdown reliever and left-handed bat that everybody was demanding. So
what shutdown reliever is that? Which one was that? Who's the shutdown reliever? We've got our shutdown reliever, and that's okay, but we
agree our relief core was not good enough to contend for the World Series last.
But to think that this guy's going to come in and make that big of a difference as a seventh inning guy, I don't know, really, versus an everyday player, like the other team is going to go, here comes Swanson, we're dead now. I don't think so. Everyday player, Teoscar. Okay, well, who's coming up? We got Bo, Vladdy, Teoscar.
What about people say, we're
going to pitch around Vladdy to get to Teoscar? I don't think so.
Right. You want to buy low, sell high, right? Perhaps this.
No. You want to keep a core together and you want to add pieces to that core. If Teoscar wasn't part of that core, right? If he was, did they not make the playoffs kind of sort of last year or last year for sure? The year before that, didn't they kind of sort of was he not part of that? Like part of that batting order that they were developing when they added Springer now? And to me, was that not a feared batting order? Okay, who are you going to replace him with now? That's all I'm saying. So I'm not saying, look, they should have waited, signed the free agent first, and then say, okay, now Teoscar's expendable. That might have made it a little more palpable, let's say. All right, we've already got Nimmo. Let's say we signed Nimmo as a free agent. Okay, we've got too much now. But you still would have been talking with teams who were interested in Teoscar.
Right.
And maybe his value might have gone up.
We have to assume this is one of those things you can't judge this trade today because at this point the Jays are not as good as they were.
No, you can't judge a trade, but you can judge the fact that you took a guy out who could have been a big help to your team in 2023, right? And you basically said, we got a guy now we have 3 years of control. Well, I don't give a fuck what's going to happen in 2026 with this guy or 2025. I'm talking now. We got our taste last year.
Right.
Well, so not having Teoscar, if you don't win a World Series and you go at the end, could we have that trade back? If we had Teoscar in our order and would we? And that you're right. That's something you figure out down the road. I don't like it because I think Teoscar was a popular guy. And I think that just because it was his, he was going to be a free agent. This was his final year of the contract. Doesn't mean that you can't, play him. So what? So you lose him. So what? What did it cost you to get him in the first place? Come on. So what? But if he's a contributor and you go places in the playoffs, and then after that, it's like, okay, it was great having you, Teoscar, but at least you got us there. Kind of like, didn't we do that with Kawhi? Like, okay, Kawhi was a key guy, obviously. But what if we have a gap and we go, geez, we wish we had Teoscar? Well, we could have kept him. But then if we didn't have him, we wouldn't have had money to do him, and we wouldn't have been able to do this. And it's all a domino thing. I don't know. It happened kind of early, and it was a surprise.
We'll see what lies ahead here. Maybe there'll be a move coming up and we'll come on and say, now it all makes sense.
Well, the other thing is
we
have to sort of hope that, Teoscar has a bad year and everybody goes, good move to get rid of Teoscar.
Right.
Stuff like that. And I don't like stuff. I don't like stuff like that. Anyway. All right. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Always is with the Jays. Has been for the last number of years, right?
Oh yeah. We can no longer complain that they don't loosen the purse strings and go after some big money free agents.
Loosen the purse strings.
The purse strings. Yeah.
All right. The aforementioned Aaron Judge, the free agent. And by the way, I'm not sure I like the fact that people are going, oh, forget about the Jays. Like, don't even think about it. Like, impossible that the Jays would be interested in Aaron Judge. I'm like, well, why? Like if someone went to Ross, if what's his name, Brian Cashman called Ross Atkins, said, are you interested in, let's say last year, he was a free agent. And they said, are you interested? He's going to hit 62 home runs. Right? Like, what was his value last year? Even on an expiring contract, a Yankee breaking the record, the whole thing like that. What a great story that is. And he turns down $215 million. He's going to test free agency. So, and he's from Northern California, and he grew up a Giants fan. So that's an automatic. Man, like what if he said, I really like Toronto. Like, nobody will bother me there and whatever. And I don't know. Or he fell in love with a woman from Toronto. I don't know. But for someone to say, some expert, one of these quote experts who says, there's no way that the Jays would ever sign Aaron Judge as a free agent. I just say to that, bullshit. Because we've said the same thing about other players. There's no way. There's no way. Don't ever say that. Stranger things have happened.
Never say never.
Stranger things have happened, my friend. Stranger things. Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt are baseball's MVPs for 2022. Judge won easily over Shohei Ohtani. He had to. He broke Maris's record. He's from New York. Ohtani won it last year. I mean, Ohtani is incredible, but this was going to be Judge's year. And also remember his run for the Triple Crown, which kind of came out of nowhere. Like, really, no one was like, is he hit a home run? Did Judge hit a home run? People weren't going, is Judge batting, 322? Did he drive it? No, it was weird. It sort of happened simultaneously. Right. And you kind of looked one day and went, Jesus Christ, he could win the Triple Crown. It really appeared out of nowhere. It was fun. And in any other year, I mean, it's Shohei Ohtani, but I mean, what Judge did this past year was fantastic.
Right.
And Paul Goldschmidt from the Cardinals, this poor Paul Goldschmidt, this guy was runner-up twice for MVP voting in the National League when he was with Arizona, and third. He was third once in the voting, and he finally won it, barely beat out Manny Machado for the National League MVP. So good on Aaron Judge and Paul Goldschmidt. And also, Alek Manoah, he's a finalist. He's a top 3. He ended up finishing third in the voting. We could not have expected that. If I would have said to you or anyone like a year ago, the Manoah is going to be a Cy Young finalist, you're going to get the fuck out of here. No way. He was incredible. And if he can continue that, if he can stay healthy, what an arm. And what an attitude, too. Oh, this guy is just, this is where you're like, okay, Manoah comes back. He's better next year. We got Teoscar. No, we don't have Teoscar. We got Springer is going to play right field. We got, I don't know who else. So yeah, go out and do something, guys. Football now, the comments came fast and furious on social media when the NFL announced, not the Bills, but the NFL announced that Sunday's Buffalo-Cleveland game has been moved from Buffalo to Detroit because of the lake effect snow that threatens to shut down it's going to shut down a good portion of Western New York. That's what's going to happen. Okay. They're going to close a 100-mile stretch of the New York State Thruway, I-90, out of, running west along the southern, what I'm talking about. To
save lives, because there's a lot of snow.
No one will be able to get anywhere. But of course, the comments are like, we're going to football in the snow, bunch of wimps, And I understand it's fun stuff, whatever. But it's like, come on. If nobody can get there, okay? If it's an emergency, if the governor on Wednesday declares a state of emergency, that's going to happen on Saturday and into Sunday. Come on. And then you got come on, it's only going to be 2 feet. Why, are you kidding me? 2014, the Bills, and it was November. I think the game was November 21st, 2014, in November, right? Where, it was fairly sophisticated then. They could pretty much tell that they did the same thing. They went, the NFL went, no, the game's going to be in Detroit. We're against the Jets. We can't have it here. A lot of people complained and stuff. Think of all the locals. Think of the money you take in when you draw 80,000 people to a game in Buffalo in Orchard Park, New York. The grocery store selling beer, the parking lot attendants, the people working the games, right? It's a huge economic boost. And remember, it only happens, 8 times a year?
Yep.
So come on, baby. So now you got to give all this up. Did they get compensated for? No. Okay. This is what happens. And it's in November too, man. And then a couple of years after that, they did play in a wicked blizzard, but I don't think that kind of came upon them quite quickly, I do believe. It wasn't like they could plan in advance that it was going to happen like right at game time. But anyway, so here's the deal. So now the game's in Detroit at Ford Field. So I'm looking, and I have a buddy of mine in St. Catharines, and he's a season ticket holder, right? So he's going to the game in Detroit. He's just going to take the 401. It's going to take him about 3.5 hours, he says.
Okay.
To get from where he is to Ford Field in Detroit. 3.5 hours. He's still got to go across a border. He's going to the game. I'm wondering now, people from Buffalo, fans are like, oh, geez, we can't go to the game in Buffalo, but we're definitely going to go to Detroit. Man, you're not going to go along. I mean, first of all, the roads will be closed. You're going to have to go into Canada, take the 401. You're going to save yourself a couple of hours at least anyway. It's only 4 hours. It's a little over 4 hours from Buffalo to Detroit through Ontario. If you go the other way, it's going to take you like 6 hours, and you're going to be in the thick of that storm if you can even get through there. So I just feel that there's going to be a lot of action at the border of people looking at a map going, hey, we just go to Ontario. We don't need to be vaccinated. We have to have our passports. We tell them we go to Taps Friendly Markets in Tonawanda. We go through Ontario to Brace. No toll road, nothing. Beautiful. And they speak English there. And the way I look at it is the weather on the south side, the lake effect, it's going to be Armageddon. And on the north side, it's your basic 401, through London. You might get a little, whatever. You take your chances.
Well, we'll see, Hebsy.
Pick your poison. Pick your poison.
Yeah, I will just say, like, maybe when 60 centimeters is dumping down on you in that short span of time, maybe you just watch that game on TV. Like,
right.
You can't sit one out. But I want to shout out, you talked about, people on Twitter saying, it's snow, real men playing snow.
Well, this is Twitter. Come on, man.
But I want to shout him out because he's not just some rando on Twitter. Gene Velitis and you, I got my popcorn. I was watching you and Gene go back and forth because Gene was dropping the whole, like, how can you cancel football because of snow? I think he used the, what's the word we call young kittens? Pussycats? Yeah. Anyway. he called them a bunch of pussies, I think. Gene Velitis. And
I don't think Gene is sad. I'm not sure Gene. I mean, he may have. I mean, he spent some time in Winnipeg, but he might have sat through a Winnipeg Blue Bombers game, once in -40.
Yeah, this is a guy who moved to California, whatever, Huntington Beach, forever. Now he's in BC. What does he know about 60 centimeters of snow?
Oh my God, we should shout out the Jesse and Gene podcast because I work with those guys are nuts.
Well, I was hoping Gene would be in the live chat.
What's that?
I was hoping he'd be in the live chat to kind of give it to me.
Oh, it's only 6:25 in BC. Don't expect him to be
He gets up early. Okay.
By the way, the Bills play the Lions in Detroit next Thursday on Thanksgiving. So it's sort of like it's perfect for the schedule because the NFL went, hey, they're going to be there anyway. Let's just send them to Detroit early. They'll play the game in Detroit as the home team against Cleveland. And then they'll play 4 days later on Thanksgiving Thursday at 12:30 in the afternoon, which is weird anyway, right? It's just a weird schedule. They knew that they're preparing for this anyway. Just send them there. They can practice indoors. They don't have to worry about the weather. Okay. And for you Buffalo Bills fans, were you going to go to Detroit anyway for that Thanksgiving game? Maybe. So you go a few days early, right? Maybe you come over to Windsor, you play in the casino, you have a little bit of fun.
Hey, Hebsy, I haven't reviewed the notes and everything, but were you going to address that Bills loss on the weekend? Because I actually watched.
I know. Well, I'm just saying, I was just saying, to be a Buffalo Bills fan, you got to be hardy. I mean, look at the punches you've taken. Look at the shots you've taken. But I just knew, even though near the end of the third quarter and them leading by 3 scores, I said, this isn't good. They should have put this game away a long time ago. That it had one of those bad feelings. Like you keep looking at the clock going, there's too much time left or too much time left. And then not only that, but then, I don't think I've ever seen a play from the 1-inch line where they haven't conceded the safety if it wouldn't have cost them the game. Right.
Yeah, I think the win probability at that point, at that moment in time before that snap was like near 99.9%.
No, but the thing is, the win probability doesn't take into the effect what can happen when you snap the ball from your own 1-inch line. Remember, when you take the snap, you are a good yard in the end zone. When you receive the snap,
right.
Of
course. Yes, of course.
So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. There are a lot of things that can go wrong. Too many things that can go wrong. Whereas had you taken the safety, Then, okay, there's 40 seconds to go or whatever it was. Now you've got to kick the ball. Yeah, but you kick it from your own 20, I think it is. And then you depend on your defense, right? They have to score a touchdown still. So it's great to look back. It's great. But I mean, from your own 1 inch line, Mike, from your own, and it wasn't even the 1 yard line. It was like inside the one.
Right.
Okay. And you're saying all you got to do is fall on it or whatever. No. You can't. If you fall on it, it's a safety end. Take the 2 points. Now that would have made, it was a 4-point lead. So, okay, yeah, they could have kicked the field goal, but still, man, put your defense back out there. Don't take any chances from the 1 inch line. Not
what drama, like what theater though?
No kidding, eh? No kidding.
They marched
stopping them on the 1, stopping them on 4 down. Yeah, that was. So, yeah, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, punch gut, okay? And now this week, another punch gut. Come on, how much more? Like Happy Gilmore, right? Where he goes to the hitting machine. Come on, go ahead, hit me with the.
Right.
What are you doing? Oh, I'm getting ready for hockey season. Oh, that one right in the head. Speaking of hockey, the Maple Leafs lost 3-2 in overtime. They got a point last night, which they didn't deserve. They got the point anyway, but they lost it overtime to the Devils, who won 11 games in a row under Lindy Ruff, who was given up for dead a few years ago. This guy's too old. He can't coach anymore. Dude can coach. That team is on you like, come on. That team is all over you. You don't have a second to breathe against that team. Leafs lucky to get a point. Matt Murray was outstanding. I tell you what, he's a bit unorthodox, eh, Mike?
Yeah.
He's a bit like, but still, the guy's won 2 Stanley Cups. And he kept the game at 2-1 until William Nylander tied it with about 2 minutes to go in regulation. And it was a good game. I enjoy watching it. Although Mitch Marner's too soft on the puck in the offensive zone. He gets stripped too quickly. I think they know that if he's got the puck on the half board, just double team him and you'll take it away from him. That's my only complaint.
Well, while we're talking Leafs, I'm hoping you'll share maybe some thoughts about Borje Salming, because those were.
Oh, well, what did I tell Mike? What did I say last week on the podcast? What did I say? There wouldn't be a dry eye in the house.
It was something else. I gotta say,
wouldn't be a dry eye in the house, man.
And with Daryl there, and he was weeping. And
my God! First of all, to have the courage to come to Toronto in the condition that you're in and to be in public, not just in public, but so the world can see. All right, is like takes remarkable courage. This guy was courageous anyway, in a lot of ways, and so this gave people the opportunity to learn the story of Borje Salming, what he had to endure as a man, as a hockey player, right? As a human being, right? The love that people had for this guy. Mm-hmm. You see, anyone who grew up or was a Leaf fan during his tenure, how could you not like the guy? Believe me, I was as critical as anyone for Borje Salming but he used to flop too much. I thought he was always flopping to block shots, flamboyant and the flamingo. But I mean, he had to endure a lot, man. Chicken Swede, they called him, and every chance people got, they ran him. All right. So anyway, it was sad. And at the same time, I was happy that people knew about Borje Salming, that they were educated about Borje Salming, that their fathers or uncles or big brothers or whatever grandparents said, this guy here was really something, was a real trailblazer, real pioneer, made Maple Leaf hockey in the 70s when him and Sittler and Lanning and all those guys and Paul Matier made it exciting hockey, which was, Montreal had the high flying Canadians, the flying Frenchmen. Toronto always had the plodding teams. And, that's why we appreciated the Davy Keons, the guys that had some elegance and some grace and, so yeah, man, Borje had that. He had that.
So, I mean, I was weeping on Friday night. That's with when Daryl Sittler was there. And then they did the tribute video on the Saturday, and we had Borje and his family. And again, just, man, when you see him, it's just, wow. It was, like you said, not a dry eye in the house.
Okay, that tribute video that they played, right? So that's an old video. That was from about 7 or 8 years ago. That
maybe from the Hall of Fame induction.
It was. No, it was from Legends Row, I do believe. Okay. I think Leafs TV put it together when Borje was in Legends Row. But anyway, Jim Ralph was the narrator for that, right? It was Ralphie. And that essentially the bones of it, most of it was done many years ago. It was sort of that, the ultimate Borja tribute with,
Right.
the highlights and clips and stuff like that. And then I think they added a few things to it before they presented it. They brought it up to date from, I guess it was 2014, the Legends Row one. Yeah. So they brought that up to date. And it was beautiful. But I remember when I first saw it, and Borja was, in great spirits, 2014 Legends Row. That's when he came into town. Remember, that's when him and Sittler came out with the Borja and Sittler masks on.
Yes, the big,
and then they revealed themselves. Right. That was great.
And we all said that he looked like he could still play. Like, get him back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was that was fantastic. And you know what? I was a bit worried that there would be some cringe. That was phenomenal ceremony. And shout out to Mike Rossi on the mic, who did a fantastic. I mean, I would have been crying. He did a fantastic job, such a professional job of moving the ceremony along, and being able to articulate, in a professional manner what was going on, what people were there for, what they were seeing, announcing the players. Like, it really, really well done. I would have lost it. I would not have been able to. I would have been too emotional. I would have been like weeping on the microphone, man. Good on him. That's a tough job.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He's good.
Really good. Anyway, Leafs back in action Saturday night against the Buffalo Sabres, who will be happy to get out of Buffalo. I'm sure they've probably pretty much said, in fact, they're probably in town. I'm sure they are. It's Friday. The game's tomorrow. They're here now. They've gotten out of Buffalo. So let's get out of here. Let's get out. So they've got them Saturday, and then the Leafs host the Islanders Monday night. Then they get a return date with the Devils in Jersey on Wednesday. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out how awesome all the Hall of Fame ceremonies were last week. Even though, some of the people, there's this discussion whether they're worthy or not, and Paul Henderson should be in. I mean, it's sort of all that stuff. I don't like it when people, that's easy stuff to do. Is, let's throw a name out there. Jason Spezza, should he be in the Hall of Fame? I don't like when they do that.
Do you think we overvalue the winning the Stanley Cup? Like, I noticed one of the interesting things about this crop of Hall of Famers was so few Stanley Cups between them. The Sedin twins have 0. Alfredson has 0. Luongo has 0. Right. Do you think historically we've overvalued hoisting that cup? Maybe, because if you go to baseball, it's not how many championships you won. Although there's lots of Yankees that won a bunch of championships. It really is your individual play. It's how you played as a player. It's not how your team did. And so, but I think it's really hard. Nowadays, you're looking at metrics, you're kind of more going, okay, he didn't win these Stanley Cups and his numbers are pretty good, but he was a defenseman or he was a defensive forward, right? And so it's hard. So, if you look at the Clark Gillieses of the world, he played on Stanley Cup champions, right? But he was also he was a different kind of a player. It wasn't all in the stats. He couldn't score all the goals. That was Bossy scoring those goals and Trottier scoring those goals, right? And so what did he do that made him a Hall of Famer? And it's much more difficult to quantify. So that's why someone like Scott Morrison is now on the Hall of Fame selection committee. There's a lot of things to go over before you just. I saw that Michael Farber aged out, I guess. Yeah. So that's important because you're going to look and say, because people nowadays go, Grant Fuhrer, 351 goals against average, 888. Like, how is he in the Hall of Fame? And you kind of look and go, no, you can't do it that way. But then again, you look at certain guys and go, well, just because he hit 500 home runs, is he automatically in the Hall of Fame? The answer is like, well, yeah, it's just sort of a milestone thing. Oh, 3,000 hits, you're in the Hall of Fame. 300 wins, you're in the Hall of Fame. Do we have those in hockey? We kind of do, right? But we don't have them on the defensive side. Like, you have to be Bob Gainey to get in the Hall of Fame. So he won Selke trophies and Stanley Cups, right? That was a lock. But what if Bob Gainey never played for a Stanley Cup champion? Is he in the Hall of Fame? Right. That's hard. Clark Gillies is the best example. That is Clark Gillies, right?
Is Phil Kessel a Hall of Famer? Here's the best one. Is Phil Kessel a Hall of Famer? See, without looking at his numbers, knowing that he played 1,000 consecutive games, so he's the quote unquote Iron Man who probably never got hit. Is that in of itself enough? Plus the number of, I guess, longevity. Okay. Is he a Hall of Famer? Phil Kessel.
What do you think, Hebsy?
No. Is Keith Yandel a Hall of Famer? Again, 900 and whatever games.
I've never thought of Keith Yandel as a Hall of Famer. No.
But if you look at who's in the Hall of Fame and go, well, if he's in, then he's got to be in.
Well, let me ask you, go back to Clark for a minute. The late, great Clark Gillies, who I recently spoke to, Brian Trottier. We talked a great deal about because he lost Mike Bossy and Clark Gillies in the same year. It's terrible. Right. But if he doesn't win a Stanley Cup, he's not in the Hall of Fame, right? Like, he's there because he's part of that dynasty that wins 4 cups.
Again, that obviously had a lot to do with it. Obviously. So
It's
to answer your question, yeah, it's great to have championships, but as you pointed out, this year's recipients, no, they didn't have Stanley Cup. And if you go into the Baseball Hall of Fame, for example, or the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I don't think that's based on as much. Is based on how many championships you won.
No, because famously we always used to talk about Marcel Dion. We always said, "Oh, he's the greatest player who never won a cup." But now suddenly there's sort of like a flush of like great players who never won a cup. But that was always like the barroom discussion was always.
Well, I heard a lot of people saying that this guy didn't like I heard a few, and they're saying, I don't think the Sedin twins deserve to go in, right? They were both really good players.
Sure.
But I don't think they deserve to go in. But the fact that they're together and they're identical twins, and they didn't win any championships and stuff like that. And I thought, they were good players. But gee, if I have to think of one individually without the other one, right. I don't know. But who am I to say? I'm not in the selection committee.
But the bar,
would I have chosen someone else instead of them? Yes, I would. There are others who I feel deserve to be in before the Sedin twins get in.
You want to drop a name?
No, but I think there's plenty of very good players that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, and then aren't in, and maybe have waited a long time, and maybe the Sedin twins might have to wait a little longer. But anyway, not up to me. I don't make the selections. I would never say that someone doesn't deserve to be in. I'm not saying they don't deserve to be in. Would I have selected them? I don't think so. But it doesn't mean they suck. They're in, and they deserve. They were voted in. No one can take that away from them. No one can say they don't deserve to be in. But to say that there are others that should be in, I think, I could say that.
I think if we're going to be in 5 years seeing Phil Kessel at center ice because he's going in the Hall of Fame, I think we can just say this bar to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame is just too damn low.
Okay, if you say so, but you can't go back now. What are you going to do? Anyway, let's move on. NBA, Raptors back in action tomorrow in Atlanta against the Hawks and their superstar Trae Young. Raps have had some injury issues of late. I don't have to tell you about that. Like everybody, all the big guys are up, but Fred VanVleet back in action now. That's good. And they're a tough team to beat. The Raptors are a tough team. They're 9-7, and they're defying the odds right now. 23rd in the league in scoring. I don't have Pascal Siakam, but still they're doing 23rd in the league, 24th in the league in field goal percentage, 18th in the league in 3-pointers, 16th in the league in free throw percentage, 18th in rebounds, and yet they still manage to win games because of their defense. First in the league in steals, 4th in the league in fewest turnovers. That's going to win you ball games. And they're fun to watch. Mike, there's so much fun I told you, my 90-year-old father, he watches from start to finish, man.
Nice.
He, out of my seat there, Fred for 3, man, book it,
nice.
Loves it. And they're just so much fun. So much fun. Now, after tomorrow, they get a bit of a blow, and then they host the Brooklyn Nets and likely Kyrie Irving next Wednesday at the Scotiabank Arena. Irving is eligible for reinstatement I think he's already eligible, but I mean, once he completes his tasks, right?
Education.
And make amends, or however you want to put it. According to multiple sources, he will be available Sunday. And I guess Wednesday, that would be very interesting to see him, see what kind of reaction he gets from the fans.
He shouldn't be allowed to come back until he visits Auschwitz and tours the facility and just be in that space and take that in. That's what that man needs.
Not a bad idea at all, Mike. Not a bad. He needs to be educated. Definitely needs to be educated, and he needs to be contrite. Sunday marks the start of the greatest sporting event in the world. And for some, that includes the Olympic Games. Of course, you know what I'm talking about, Mike. It's the Grey Cup. TSN all over it. Everybody is going to, What? Sorry. Oh, the World Cup. Sorry. The World Cup. I had the wrong one. As I know it was TSN. I saw James Duthie. I saw a video of James Duthie. He's in the airport and he's telling Noodles and Brian Hayes and O-Dog not to screw up the TSN Hockey Tonight, the panel, right? Because he can't do it because he's, he's off to. So I think he's going to the Grey Cup. Like he's anchoring the Grey Cup because he does the Grey Cup, right? That's what TSN, 6 hours of Grey Cup. No, he's going to the World Cup.
Wow.
He's not going to the Grey Cup. So TSN's got like everybody, like every single, like the janitor. Like, you busy?
All hands on deck.
Grey Cup, right? Because the World Cup they got, like, what do I got here? Okay, here's the World Cup. So Duthie is the on-location host along with Luke Wildman and Lindsay Hamilton. The studio host is Kelsey Braid. The on-location analysts are Stephen Caldwell, Julian de Guzman, Kevin Kilbane, Janine Becky, and Tosaint Ricketts. The studio analyst is Carmelina Moscato. The on-location reporters are Matthew Skinetti and Daniel I should know how to say it. Zakrevsky, I think it is. Daniel Zakrevsky. And the social media reporter is Corwin McCallan, and the rules expert is Joe Fletcher. So they're sending a bunch of people, including Duthie, who's going to anchor the coverage, I guess. Man, that's big stuff. As far as the Grey Cup goes, I don't know, because I'm not going to be watching. I know Dunnigan, and I know that Kate Burness and Milt Stiegel, and of course Rod Smith. I was going to say Rod Black. I was going to say Rod Black and Brian Williams, but no, I don't think
Rod Smith.
Rod Smith and Glenn Suter, right?
I only know Rod Smith will call this a game. That's what I know.
Yeah, and you
don't care at all.
I have not paid attention, Mike. I have not paid attention. I just haven't, and so I don't feel I feel only to tell the audience that I have not paid attention to the Canadian Football League. It's been a while. They did me in a long time ago. The whole league did, the whole vibe of it.
When was the last time? Like, did you go to a single game at BMO Field this year? No. Okay.
No.
And will you be watching on Sunday?
No, I won't.
Wow.
Yeah, there'll be lots going on with me, lots of other stuff going on, but I have not had an interest in it at all.
Even though the Argos are in this game, you're still.
It doesn't matter to me. It makes no difference. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Okay, I lost interest in the league. I lost interest in the league because it used to be that you could count on a player being on the same team for more than 2 years. That you'd establish some type of, I don't know. I don't even want to get into it now. Don't even want to get into it. By the way, Canada beat Japan 2-1 in a friendly yesterday. This is soccer, men's soccer. The World Cup starts Sunday with the host nation, Qatar, playing. Who are they playing? Like Wales or something like that? I don't even know. Doesn't matter.
We play Wednesday.
Our first game's Wednesday against Belgium.
Whew, that's
now Alphonso Davies didn't even go to the game yesterday, and I think the same for. There's another one of our better players. I don't want to speak out of school, but anyway, we didn't have our full squad there. We beat Japan. All right, well, it was good. Came back. They got the first goal. We came back and beat them, so that's good. But we're going to be hard pressed. It's going to be tough. Belgium is such a good team, and even Morocco is a better squad. Our back line looked a little shaky against Japan there, and you can't have that. You can't have it against these national teams who've been playing together for a long time, and they've got some rhythm to them. So let's hope. We need 3 points. 3 points. We need a win.
That might not be enough.
We need a draw, and this just to have a chance.
I like this underdog. I like the fact we're the underdogs, and it gives us a chance to kind of rise up and surprise some people. So yes, we need at least 4 points, obviously, and that means we need a win against Morocco, and that's the third game, I think, is the Moroccan game is the third game. So yeah, but I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am. I'm very excited. I'm excited to see world-class soccer and national teams. I really am. The whole tournament, I'm very excited about the whole tournament. I just want to see good soccer. And also, like, every team, every nation has some great players, like players that are world-class players. Like we do. We got Davies. We got Jonathan David. Is terrific, fabulous player. So yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting. By the way, Sportsnet has not announced any on-air staff reporting from Qatar. I don't believe Sportsnet's going to spend any money sending anybody to Qatar. I mean, who's going to watch Sportsnet for World Cup coverage, right?
Right. No.
I mean, I saw they had a panel that's sitting in a studio, Faisal Kamisa, and I'm sorry, I just sort of glanced at it, and they were just sort of sitting in a studio, I guess, talking about, whatever they could about coverage, but I don't believe there's going to be anybody there, not Sportsnet people. By the way, Sportsnet not sending any radio play-by-play people for Leafs this year, like Ralphie and Bonesy stay home. And same with Raptors. Eric Smith and Mark Jones, they stay home. They're not going to go on the road for radio next year. Hopefully Ben Wagner and somebody, like, are they going to have a color guy for radio, audio, broadcast? How's that going to work? I don't know. The Northern Star Award for Canada's top athlete will be handed out for the first time December 7th. Very quiet announcement. By the way, we've changed the name of the trophy. We're going to call it the Northern Star Award because the Star readers came up with that. Really? Okay, thanks. Okay, Northern Star Award, huh? Leading candidates include Brooke Henderson, Jordan Romano, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Marie-Philippe Poulin. I gotta say it right. Cale Makar, Nathan Rourke, Summer McIntosh, Connor McDavid, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and Andrew Wiggins are the leading candidates. What does that mean? So have they listed any finalists? Who the heck is sending me a text at this time of the day?
Don't they know this is Hebsy on Sports time?
Who is doing this at this time of the day?
Hey, Nick, quick, while you're checking that, I just want
to say
Jake
Gold. Jake Gold is sending
right?
me a
Doesn't
text.
he
He
know
doesn't
we're
know.
live?
He's got to know what's going on here.
Tennessee Titans, when I know I'm all over the place, but when Tennessee was getting the NFL franchise, I remember it was they wanted to name it the Memphis Express, I think was the name they were going with, because Federal Express was, so it would become like the name would be like an ad.
Well, there you go. The Northern Star, like the Toronto Star. Okay. All right.
Anyway, they could do what they want. It's not like, but
okay, enough with that. Big deal. So in the meantime, CP always announces, around this time of the year, their male and female Canadian Athlete of the Year.
Who do you think wins this Northern Star Award?
I like Felix Auger-Aliassime. I like him because, I know he lost yesterday to Taylor Fritz at the ATP Championships. By the way, Taylor Fritz, when you shoot 90% of your first serves, when you win points on 90% first serve, this guy was unbelievable. I mean, for Felix to even get a serve back, like never mind get a good swing at it, but just to block it back into the court. Woo! But I like Felix. He's won 4 times this year. He's cracked the top 10 in the world. He's beaten Djokovic and Nadal. So tell me who's had a better year. Now, remember, Mike, when we're talking about year, if we took Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, if we took the first part of this year and the last part of last year, another part of the calendar year, and stuck them together, maybe. But unfortunately, when you have sports that run through the year like basketball and hockey, it's really hard to say this happened in the calendar year 2022.
Sure.
And here's what he did. So that's a tough one. Jordan Romano had a great year. He had a great year. You could make a case for Jordan Romano.
Right. See, you, Jake Gold, Brian Gerstein, you guys live and breathe your tennis. I don't think you can have a tennis player win this award if they did not make a Grand Slam final.
That's bullshit. Who had a better year? Tell me who had a better year than Felix. Tell me who had a better year. I'm listening.
I'm going to do some homework and bring you a name next Friday.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. All right, Mike, this story here, this gets me. I don't follow UFC. I used to be a big boxing fan, not as much anymore. There's just so much sports out there. There's only so much time. And since I don't, cover it for a living, and it's like, okay, on tonight's Sportscast, here's what we're going to do. Sportsline. This is what if Sportsline existed today, I mean, there would be 70 line items. I mean it. You'd have to you wouldn't have time for stories like this. So here's the story. Ultimate Fighting Championship president, UFC president, Dana White shared early details about the recently announced Slap Fighting League. It's called Power Slap. I don't know if you've seen this before, Mike. Go to YouTube. It's called Power Slap. So what happens is two guys, I haven't seen women doing it. That would freak me out. Two guys standing across from each other, two competitors. They trade slaps across the face. One slap per round, 30 seconds to recover from the slap, which in many cases knocks the slappee out cold. Okay? You cannot defend. You must stand there. Arms that you can't put your arm up to block. You can't even move your face to side. You can't do it. It's wild. So Dana White says the league, which will be regulated by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, is set to launch early next year with an 8-episode series that'll air on TBS. Of course it will. It's going to include rules, rankings, and extensive medical testing. Its medical requirements and weight classes will be similar to those featured in mixed martial arts promotions. This is wild. Despite White's stated emphasis on safety, medical professionals are a little bit skeptical of anyone who suggests that they can make slap fighting safer. Quote,
you can't defend yourself. Go ahead. Let me hear this quote.
Quote, when it comes to the physical aspect of the martial arts, safety and defense are primary. By its virtue, slap boxing is an offensive sport. It's also offensive, but it's an offensive sport only. There is no defense, said Dr. Nitin Agarwal, a neurosurgeon at St. Louis University. Quote, you can't use your shoulder to protect you. You can't use your hands to protect. You can't even turn your head to soften the blow or control where the blow is going to be placed. So that is very worrisome. Now, Mike, when we're hearing this, Dana White said, oh, no, these guys are professionals. They know how to soften themselves, how to take the blow. They're professionals. They're experienced at this. I'm like, this is, but if you saw this, Mike, this is violent, but it's compelling. It's sort of like watching Fight Club, right? But there's no defense.
So it's like in Rome.
No, but you're Mike. What kind of a person does it take to stand there knowing that they're going to get smacked so hard? By the way, they all have to wear earplugs and they have to wear for their gums, mouth guards.
Yeah.
Right?
That's to help with the concussion.
Well, yeah, for sure. So it's like, look, we don't want you to be concussed. So here you got these.
Well, I was going to CTE, like with what we know about CTE, this sounds disgusting, Hebsy.
It's going to be an 8-part series on TBS, man.
And I hope my son doesn't participate.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you can allow your kids to take part in something. It's like you got to see go onto YouTube. Seriously, Mike, take a look. You'll last 20 seconds. Oh my God. Like this one guy, he gets knocked. The guy smacks him so hard that there's this delay. And then it's like a California redwood falling. Okay. This guy falls. And if there isn't and they all have attendants there, they have attendants behind them in case they get hit so hard that they get knocked out. So there's an attendant waiting. This guy goes down. He goes down and he takes the attendant down with him. He goes down so hard. He's a big guy too. And the attendant is waiting. And this guy knocks the attendant and both of them crash to the floor, right? Now this guy's got 30 seconds to get up, right? He's got 30 seconds to recover before he gets his slap. I'm laughing, but it's entertaining, but it's dangerous.
I might have less than zero interest in that one, Hebsy, but
having said that, look, you watch shows, Jackass. Look at these Buffalo Bills fans that started this, jumping off a roof, jumping down onto a table.
Right.
Think of this type of culture, right? What people will do. I see promos for this television show where these guys are stung by bugs, by huge, like massive bugs and lizards, and you know what I mean? Where they just put their arm out and they take the hits, right? Like it's like Fear Factor or any of these types of shows, but it's like, I don't know, man. It's like it's being marketed as a sport. Like if you like UFC, then why wouldn't you like this? Remember the days when they had like arm wrestling championships? Oh, that's exciting, right? That was man versus man or woman versus woman, right?
Over the top,
but you could defend. Right? You could fit. In this one, it would be like, okay, we're going to arm wrestle, but you can't show any resistance.
But there's no head involved. Like, to me, it's about the brain. What we know about CTE and concussions. Arm wrestle away, go nuts.
So why wouldn't they do the same thing with like just your stomach, let's say, where I can kick you or punch you as hard as I can in the solar plexus or whatever, right? Not in the head. Like, why not just do it that way? Guy stands there and just goes like this, go ahead. And the other guy just winds up and pounds him. And this guy goes down and he's breathing like that. He's got 30 seconds to recover. And then he gets to hit the other guy. Why in the face? Like, why in the head? Crazy. Anyway, something to think about. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm thinking like the meeting that they had where Dana White says, wait a second, I've got an idea. You see,
it was
these guys
probably
here?
After the Oscars when Chris Rock took one from Will Smith. He said, I have an idea.
Yeah. But it's sort of like, you know how taboo cockfighting is, right? Or dog fighting, like they got Michael Vick, like just the cruelty. That's the word I'm thinking of. The cruelty, right? If they won't accept this cruelty to animals, cruelty, but it's okay, the cruelty to a human being.
Right.
Because it's consensual.
Right.
Right? It's like the dog has no say in it, right? The chicken has no say in it. Anyway, all right. We're out of time. That's it for episode 310 of Hebsy on Sports. Thanks so much to Toronto Mike, as always, for production and inspiration. Hit him up at Toronto Mike and listen to his outstanding podcast. And thanks to you for allowing us into your headspace. We're back with another episode next week. Until then, great talking to you. So long for now.